guys!
Hi guys, and welcome back to Couch Critics.
We're Couch Critics, and today we're going to talk to you about our favorite horror show.
Horror show, right?
Horror show.
It is a very indie TV show, and it was done by Hulu, but we watched it on Amazon Prime, and it's called Normal People.
Yes.
And that's a series that you got me into, and also got me into the whole Paul Mescal fan base. It's the first Paul Mescal thing I ever watched. We've talked about this TV show in many of our reviews before when we talked about All of Us Strangers, After Sun. We've always came back and compared Paul Mescal's performance to Normal People, and I'm glad we're reviewing it.
Same. It's our first time reviewing a show.
Yeah.
And I'm still surprised that you watched this recommendation because it's so niche and it's not usually your style of shows. And I did not even like spam you with the edits of it to like.
You mentioned it a couple of times. We were reading the book at the time, so you hadn't even watched it by then. And I just started watching it that night, and I remember I watched 3 episodes in a row. I got so attached to it. I finished the whole TV show in one weekend, and it's so good. And we were just saying earlier, like, we want to rewatch it, but we also don't want to rewatch it. It's so heartbreaking.
We need to be emotionally ready, basically, to like self-sabotage, because it's truly a destructive show to me. Yeah. The way that I found out about Normal People, obviously I've been hearing about it everywhere, and like I was aware of the Paul Mescal hype, but whenever I see too many people watching something, I tend to not watch it because to me, like, it's, I don't know, like, I just get the ick.
I do the same.
And so one day I was thrifting and I found the Normal People book, and I was like, you know what, like, I'll just see what the hype is about. And I actually didn't read it when I bought it. It sat in my library for like 5 months.
Okay, wow.
And then like I had an acting job once for a commercial, and I had to wait for like 9 hours before they called me. You know how it works on set. And so I brought the book with me and I read it during those 9 hours, and I was so into it. Like, I haven't felt like this level of consolation, of like company and comfort from a book in a long time. You know, when you buy a book and you just get lost in it, and you just feel like that book slowly becomes a person, and you just can lean on them a little bit and root for them and care for them. I know, maybe I seem crazy, but like, this is how I felt when I read Normal People, and I watched the show in one day, just like you, as soon as I finished the book, which wasn't the best idea, because it's, I wouldn't say that it's a sad book, but it's such, those characters are characters that you can definitely identify in, and it's the most mundane story and the most like stale story, but that's the beauty of it, is that there isn't really a plot. It's just life unfolding right in front of your eyes, and it's so interesting to watch because it's relatable.
I think it's a very draining series to watch. And yes, as you said, it's about normal people, but I also think their life is so specific. It's not, like, yes, it's normal, but that's basically everybody's life. It's normal, but it's specific in certain ways. I just loved how it unfolds. It's basically about 2 characters and their relationship. That's the whole movie. It's the relationship between 2 friends, and then they become lovers, and it's just, sometimes it's not clear, but it's about Connell and Marianne, and it starts in high school. Marianne is this very outcasted girl. She's smart, she's rich, and nobody likes her. And then there's Connell, who's this popular guy, and who's like, I would describe Connell as a people pleaser, especially in the first seasons. And then they have this friendship together because Connell's moms work at Marianne's place. And then it evolves, they go to college. They're both very bright students, and then they start working, and it's just, there's a lot of ups and downs in both of their lives. But no matter what happens, even though they were never this like typical boyfriend, like boy and girl kind of friendship or anything, they have this very fond love of each other, and I think it goes beyond the friendship or the romance. It's just like, you know, when you have someone that you just care for so much, and they just have this special place in your heart, no matter like no matter the evolution of the relationship, it's just someone you can always go back to and like tell them how you feel and everything. And I think that's the beauty of this friendship and romance and just like situationship, if you want.
You gave such a beautiful synopsis of the whole thing because it's literally about that. And to add to what you're saying, to me, it's a story about stoicism. It's a story that tackles the brutality of love, passion, intimacy, and heartbreak. And to me, it's what every show and movie aspires to be. Because I feel like whenever we see anything, like any movie or any show that we watch has two characters that have like a love interest or something, but yes, sometimes they have chemistry and it's so obvious on screen, but you can't see the passion. Whereas when you put Paul Mescal and Daisy Jones Edgar, they're such brilliant actors, and the plot is so clear, and the writing is so perfect that before they even lay an eye on each other, you feel the electric passion between them, and you just root for them, and it's so heartbreaking when they're just like an inch away from each other on screen. And it just reminds me of like all the classical stories that you read and like the really good old movies that you watch. And yeah, it's I'm obsessed with that show.
I totally agree with it. And yeah, there's so much to say about this movie, but the first thing that comes to mind, and I just have to get it out of the way.
Okay.
Can we talk about how much Daisy Jones Edgar looks like Anne Hathaway? Because that's something I can't get over.
I don't think so.
No, you don't think she looks like Anne Hathaway?
I think she looks like this Italian actress from The Baby Show. She's in Immaculate right now with Sydney Sweeney, Benedetta something. They look exactly the same, but I don't think she looks like Anne Hathaway.
I don't know. I couldn't help but like resemble her to Anne Hathaway. I don't know why. I don't know.
I don't see it.
It's probably in my head. I'm not the best at making comparison between people, but that's just I just want to get it out of the way.
There are some similarities.
Yeah, the hair, the fringe, the nose. I don't know.
Not the smile though.
Not the smile. That's true. Her smile is more. Anne Hathaway gives off more of like happy girl vibe. Daisy Jones Edgar, you look at her and you can feel the pain that she's going through. At least maybe in this TV show. I haven't seen her in any other different thing, but you can tell she's suffering from the inside, and I think that's what makes her the perfect fit for this role. You talked about stoicism, and I love that because I think that's literally it. I think in general, both Marianne and Connell have decent lives and also very sad lives at the same time. They just have like a good balance between ups and lows, highs and lows.
Ups and highs
and lows. I wish everybody had just ups and highs, but no, highs and lows. And yeah, they just have some highlights. They're both very bright, they're smart, and then they have their problems. With Marianne, it's mainly with her family, with her relationship with others. She has trouble connecting. Connell, it's more of it's not just financial problems, but he also has he has trouble expressing himself. However, he still manages to have a better connection with people. I don't know. I feel like Connell is the guy is social butterflies, whereas Marianne is more of the mysterious outcast girl. But then in college she gets better, and it's so funny. After watching Normal People, after you got me into the whole hype, I started getting reels from the TV show, and it's just so refreshing to just see it on my timeline. And there's this line that Marianne says, "Classic me, I leave high school and I become prettier," or like, what is it?
Connell, Paul Mescal, he tells her, "You look really pretty, by the way," and she goes like, "That's classic me, came to college and became pretty."
Yeah.
And then he goes on to say, "You were always pretty."
Yes. Oh, that scene lives rent-free in my head. It's crazy. But yeah, so I don't know where I was going with it. I could talk about this TV show for hours.
This, like when you love a show so much that when the time comes to talk about it, it just goes blank.
Yes.
This is what's going on right now. But can we talk about the characters? Like, can we deep dive into them?
Yes.
Why do you think both characters were so attracted to each other, besides the attraction. But what do you think was the element that pulled them together?
See, I was thinking about it earlier, and I have a theory that I don't totally agree with myself, but I'm
Mm.
just again gonna say
Yeah.
it to get it out of the way. I think there was a bit of a Stockholm syndrome for both of them. Like
Hmm.
Connell's mother worked at Marianne's, so I think that Connell had a bit of resentment and yet still admiration for Marianne because his her family is so well off and his family
Hmm.
is not as comfortable. So I think that's the first thing. And but I also think that Connell is a very sensitive and understanding person, and I think he has a very high emotional intelligence. And I think that he felt how much Marianne was suffering,
Yeah.
so he was drawn to her because he wanted to be there for her, and because since he would always see her after school when he
Hmm.
comes and picks up his mom, he had like access to her like deeper like
Yeah.
he had a better understanding of her than
Yeah.
anybody else. So I think that's why he liked her, and I think that she liked him simply because he's a very loving, caring character, and he also notices her when nobody else does. And
Hmm.
he wasn't nice to her, but he wasn't mean to her.
Yeah.
And since Marianne was, I think Marianne was bullied, although I think she had a very good approach to her bullying. She didn't care about anybody. Like she was very arrogant as a person. And I think that was her way of protecting herself. But since Connell wasn't mean to her, she had a better appreciation of him because he was the only person who actually saw her and
Hmm.
noticed her. And that evolved later with time. And because they ended up being on the same path so many times with college and work and everything, and they had this past together, they got closer because they were from the same place. And yeah, what about you?
I agree with a few of the things that you say. I think that there are a lot of elements that you described that helped the attraction, but think that fundamentally what made them like truly get attached to each other is because they wanted to become each other. They saw in each other what they lacked. And for Connell, for example, it was the this intellectual and like all this brilliance that Marianne represented. He needed this social validation from his peers, but that did not make him happy. He came back home after like his football practice and everything, and like his nights out with his friends, and he would read, and it wasn't something that he felt like he was comfortable sharing with his friends because he felt like he's gonna be the outcast, he's gonna be judged. And then Marianne comes around and she's like, no, you can apply for Trinity, for the most prestigious program in this school, and you can become whatever you think that you can't be. And so for him, he had the chance to become what he felt like he wasn't allowed to be with Marianne, and it made him closer to her. Whereas for Marianne, she was always the outcast, and so for her, she wanted to become Connell in the sense of she wanted to have all the friends liking her, and she wanted to not feel like she was the bad sheep in the classroom and everything, and she was succeeded at
Yeah,
that. She became Connell
in
during the
college.
second part of the movie and the book. In college they became each other, they switched places, and I felt like that was such a nice switch, and I felt like that helped them grow as humans because they finally understood each other's point of view, whereas when they were in high school they could only imagine. And I don't think you said that you think that Marianne was above the bullying and she is an arrogant character. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that she was depressed and her coping mechanism was self-harm, and that self-harm presented itself in
Her relationships.
not her relationship but in the fact that she kind of enjoyed people hurting her. She went after that, she provoked these situations that even when she had good people around her, she would somehow make them treat her badly to prove to herself that she was a worthless person, that she wasn't worthy of love, of anything, because she was abused at home. Her father hit her, her brother hit her, her mom said she was worthless. So when she was with Connell, he was the only person who didn't validate that, and that just that was so counter nature for both of them, like all these situations, and I think that it did help them become closer to each other, and this is why I feel like they always went back to each other, like even months after being apart, years after being apart, they would always find a way back to each other.
I love the scene where Connell refuses, like, to follow her wishes of not being nice to her. And I think that was a very marking scene. It was a very marking moment for Marianne. And I think that's the thing that broke everything, like all of her glass walls and everything she was trying to protect herself with. And I think this is why they were perfect for each other.
And also, I really liked the exploration of depression in the show, because you had like two images of what depression could look like. You had Connell, who tried to deal with grief with therapy and he seeked support, whereas Marianne, she looked strong and she looked like she had her life together, and she would seek pain, and like she and that was another way of like expressing the fact that she was depressed. And I just think it's so interesting, because I feel like depression and like anxiety and stress, they come in all shapes and forms, and this is just like an emballage, like a way of portraying these kind of mental illness.
I agree with that. I think Marianne was in denial that she was depressed. She didn't want to admit to herself that she was depressed, and she was trying to hide it. And she was also, as you said, trying to look strong. And I think that's the saddest form of depression, because if you don't admit something, you cannot go out there and seek help and try to fix it. And I think that's also the most dangerous kind of depression, but not a therapist, so I don't know. That's my opinion. But yeah, can we also talk about the cinematography?
Yeah.
Because I think it was so beautiful, and I think that's what got me like just keep watching the movie. I think the color palettes were always amazing. The
blue.
Yeah, the blue. I was gonna say the blue just it was so marking. And when I think about the cinematography of that TV show, blue is the first thing that comes to my head. Starting with their eyes, like the Connell's eyes, the perfect match for the movie.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite episodes is episode 8, the one where they were in Italy. And it's just, the TV show is so sad and it's heartbreaking, but the cinematography and the angles and the scenes, they make it so soothing. I think it's a great balance. Like, I feel the fact that it was so well filmed and so serene with the scenes and like the images, it just balances out the fact that it's a very sad movie, and it's what keeps us going.
I totally agree. I feel like the color blue in this movie was a hint to melancholy.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's an English word.
I think we can say both in English and French.
And so it just makes you think of water, of tears, of something that you like, but that makes you kind of sad, and it also warms up the tones of the movie, and it makes everything more friendly and more nice. And yeah, it's just perfect. And I also liked the scenes in Italy. That was like a key moment for Marianne, because that's when she broke up with her then boyfriend. And yeah, but yeah,
I think Connell came and saved Marianne from a lot of bad relationships. I remember one time when she got onto her next relationship after Jamie, she was also very depressed. And at some point, Connell sent her an email, and I think that was her. I don't remember what the email was. That's what I like about this TV show. I watched it 6 months ago, if not longer.
Yeah.
And I don't remember it scene by scene. I don't remember the story line by line, but I do remember how it made me feel. I do remember the whole aesthetic of it. It's just a very marking movie. It's one of those kind of things that even when you forget, you don't really forget. But anyway, so I remember he sent her this email, and it just changed her perspective, and it made her leave a very toxic relationship that wasn't really toxic at first. She wanted it to be toxic, and she at some point she even threatened her partner. She told him that she was going to leave him if he didn't start being more
brutal.
Brutal with her. And I think
I totally agree. I feel like the whole silver lining. I missed saying this word because I remember in our old podcast, like the first ones, we used to always look for silver linings, and we just stopped because there aren't any silver linings.
The silver linings anymore.
All the previous reviews that we've done. But I think that there's a beautiful, beautiful silver lining in this movie, and it's that love should make you better, not bitter. And I feel like it's very obvious to see what Connell does for Marianne, because there is a certain point in the show where she just starts, you start to see the damage, like she does not hide in it anymore. But I do feel like Marianne did so much more, if not definitely so much more for Connell, because at the end of the movie, like when you see the character development, the end of the show, by the way, when we see where their characters end up, Connell is about to become he's already a writer, but his career is evolving so much. He gets an offer from New York and he's about to leave. Whereas Marianne, she's fine living with his mom, and she's just like trying to like build herself up and like trying to like put the pieces that she lost together in order to become a whole healthy person.
Because she didn't have that. And I love Lorraine Connell's mom.
Me too.
Such a beautiful key character, and the actress did such a good job. The only complaint I have is they picked, I think, a young actress to play his mom. Like, for me, the cast didn't make a lot of sense. I was just seeing her again, and she seemed very young to be his mom. I think she did a great job, and I'm glad that they picked this actress, but they should also give the opportunity for older actresses to play the role of moms.
But in her defense, she had him at 17.
Oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense.
So she, because I don't know if they mentioned that in the movie, but like in the book, he would come to her so many times and ask her if she ruined her life because of him, and she would always say, "No, you're the best thing that happened to me." So she was supposed to be young.
Oh, okay, that makes a lot more sense now. But yeah, I loved her role, and I think that Connell wanted success and he got it, and Marianne wanted family. She wanted a good supportive system, because Marianne's mom was the coldest character in the TV show, and it just broke my heart. And she also, like, we could do a whole TV show about Marianne's mom, because I'm pretty sure she had her reasons to be the way she was, but it just broke my heart about how her older brother was bullying her the whole time and her mother was never doing anything about it.
And by the end of the movie, her brother broke her nose.
Yeah.
And it's just sad. And like when you see those scenes, everything about Marianne's character makes sense, and you're just glad that she has someone like Connell. And I love this show because you truly care for these characters. Like for me, they feel like friends that I want to see them like succeed. And so it's very rare right now to find characters that you truly deeply get attached to, and that you feel left out and like you feel alone when the show ends, because although they were very problematic and very flawed, which makes them perfect in my eyes, they were human to you, human enough. And that's great cinema. That I think it's not even cinema, because
it's writing.
It's great writing, because if we see like the cinematography, it's great and everything, but it's not extraordinary. It's the writing that's extraordinary in this.
I think both were extraordinary. That's where we disagree. I think the cinematography, yes, it wasn't too like out there, but I think the simplicity of it made it so much more beautiful.
Let us know what you thought of Normal People.
Yes. See you next time.
See you next week. Bye.